welcome to the Visiting Writers series. Is the sound okay? I think this is one of these microphones, I should know this by now, that you don't, it might even be, it's not like the kind that you need to get too close. And I think, in fact, if you get too close, it gets a little staticky. So, I'm going to say social distancing from the mic. Thanks to the English department and the Department of Fine Arts, or Division of Fine Arts and Humanities, and mostly to you all for being here and to the readers for agreeing to read. So tonight's readers are Chad Morgan and Laura Solomon, and before I introduce them, I'll introduce each of them in turn. Before they read, I'll mention that we have one more event in the Visiting Writers series on April 20th, a Wednesday, at 6 p.m. in Neiman Theater, right here, when Siddiq Fofana will read, and he's a graduate of NYU's MFA program and a high school English teacher in Brooklyn. And his work has appeared in Sewanee Review and Granta, and he's a fellow at the Center for Fiction, and his book of stories, Tenants Downstairs, will appear in August from Scribner, and he's going to read and be doing other events on campus in a couple of weeks from now. So please come back for that last event. And I'll also mention that on May 10th, the creative writing students will give their annual chapbook reading, and that will also be a celebration of English awards. So people who won creative writing prizes will also probably share work, and other such things will happen. So some students who are here tonight, you'll get to hear some of them in a few weeks' time, so May 10th. Okay, our first reader tonight is Chad Morgan, who is also, as some of you know, teaching at Carthage this semester and taught at Carthage last semester. His work has appeared in the Adroit Journal, Columbia Poetry, Court Green, Landfill, and elsewhere. And he's the author of the poetry collection Chad Morgan and Other Poems, which is due now in September from Meekling Press. And he lives in Chicago currently. And I can say about that collection, of which I have seen a few poems, and I'm very excited to see the whole book. First, that I love the way that the title transformed Chad into a poem. Ashbery has that line about Nijinsky being a rhyme himself, and Chad is a poem himself, I suppose. And the poems of his that I've seen are full of a kind of searching energy that moves from the everyday events of the poem Chad Morgan and take us into many unexpected highways and byways along the route that person is traveling. And I've loved reading them, and I'm even more excited to hear Chad read tonight. Please welcome Chad Morgan.
I have read poems in front of people in the room with them because of the pandemic, but this is very exciting. As Rick said, my name is Chad. I'll be reading some poems tonight. I'm going to start by reading some poems from the book that Rick mentioned that was supposed to be out this spring but has been pushed back until September. We'll just blame the supply chain and keep it moving. But yeah, so I'll read some of those poems to start. It's a little strange because so many of these poems are so old and I feel a very peculiar distance from them, especially lately. And honestly have not been spending a whole lot of time with them lately, so it'll be interesting to get back into them. Yeah, so I will get started. This first one is called Who Could Ask for Anything More? I want to feel improbable and sit in a chair incorrectly. I'm an American, so I have to believe I'm exceptional. I meet a man for drinks and he's perfect, except his eyes are too close together, so of course I focus on that. I drink my martinis very quickly and I tell him, you are perfect, except your eyes are too close together. I'm not even that drunk. By the time I get home, he's blocked me on Grindr, and the cicadas are so loud I think I might lose it. I eat half a loaf of bread to soak up the martinis, after which I smoke a parliament on the balcony and consider the cicadas. Even scientists refer to the noise they make as a song, which is the opposite of what a poet does when they smuggle a scientific fact into the poem, like how I'm about to tell you it is the male cicadas you hear, and that the noise is produced by a pair of membranous tymbals contracting on either side of the abdomen, and that each species of cicada produces a unique and specific song that ensures they attract only appropriate mates. Being human, of course, and lacking any such song, I love a series of inappropriate men. When my friends are judgmental, I tell them you gotta kiss a few frogs if you want to find your prince, a rationalization for which I can't take credit. Suffice it to say, I'm a millennial, so often self-care is indistinguishable from self-deception. I get hard just thinking about it. I get high with another one outside the museum. He mispronounces Gauguin so emphatically that I'm no longer certain I know how to say it. Even so, I go to bed with him. It isn't even dark yet, and there's some dog shit on the floor in the corner of his bedroom. This poem is called I Can't Relate to the Market-Tested Narratives About Desire. When I'm in a romantic mood, I snip the leafy green stems off strawberries and smear a white plate with chocolate sauce. When I've eaten all the strawberries, I lick my fingers and the plate. I tell myself a joke and I laugh, laugh, laugh. It is thrilling to be this fruitful and wrong, this decadent and alone. I go to sleep with my phone and my choice of streaming services. I wake up and the world is still there, the aluminosilicate world. The latest celebrity couple is ill-conceived but convincingly in love until the canceled engagement, the messy uncoupling. Everyone participates. The pop star's woe scores the summer, but I can't relate. I might say traditional. I might say the heterosexuals. I might say the romantic comedy is naked and run through the theater shouting. On the app, a discreet guy woofs at me. He says he'd love to see more, so I send him my literal body. Should say I wrote that poem when Ariana Grande and Pete Davidson were breaking up. This poem is called Melancholy Baby. Once again, the dogs in the dog park. Once again, the ever-changing, the elastic world expands. The long shadows of dusk grow over. I'm not convinced my body is a temple, but I can try to be less sarcastic. Once again, the genuine smile. Once again, the mustard enthusiasm. The group text, the group activity. I'm alone when I want to be, otherwise I die from embarrassment. Like everyone, I know all the popular songs about love, and I'm just impressed anyone can keep a straight face. Once again, the command performance. Once again, the bathtub, the bomb of gardenia and glitter, the water's brief horizon, my toes, and so on. The poem writes itself. So what if I spend more money than I should? When I feel empty, I turn on the television. A mouth reminds me of your mouth. A pair of hands, your hands. This poem is called When I Get Home, I Take Off Myself. Like surprise, I've been acting this whole time. Now it is late in the evening and there is nothing more to say except we may never know for sure. I hope that in the future we will get to choose our personalities from a database of options and upload them to our brains. Imagine a personality for any occasion, a new you whenever you want. Isn't that the logical conclusion? Isn't that why people everywhere are talking like contestants on a reality show, looking directly into every camera saying, I didn't come here to make friends. I mean, it's fine, I'm not judging, it's just, you can't fathom how vaporous I've become, breath blooming on glass, leaving behind nothing. Right now, my neighbor is banging around in the hallway. Another is screaming, as always, her dog's name. Last week, the man I miss the most appeared on a bench at the farmer's market, having his lunch beside a wealth of wild ramps, looking just as he's always looked. which also is fine. It just further proves my point. Life's outright indifference, its negligence, even sometimes its cold shoulder. And what's funny is, if he were here now, dazzling, inscrutable as ever, he would scoff at my self-focused reading of obviously objective events. He would wrinkle his upper lip and wonder why I am so wed to one way of describing the contents of a glass. But no, I had wanted to write another poem, one not presenced by the enormity of his knuckles or the fulgent mystery of his face. Alas, he is, like the poem, a maze you build as you make your way through it, a type of inception. I'm here because I have to be. Why are you here? This poem is called Some Personal News. I'm drinking more water. So far this year, I'm averaging more steps per day than last year, but my headphones are louder. You'd be so proud of the many changes I've been making. For instance, these days, I'm almost never seen at parties in my bear suit, grizzlying the perimeter, cocktail balanced in my claws, growling for honey or whatever bears want. And I've almost completely stopped hissing at strangers who are walking too slowly when I'm trying to get somewhere. And I never smoke in public these days, almost never. Eventually, the retrograde will end again and we'll have nothing on which to hang our failures. Everyone is very anxious about this and other calamities, pending or otherwise. I'm taking care of myself for the revolution, which is definitely coming, they say. This poem is called Wedding Bell News. It's been spring for 45 days and I am not at all in love. I might forgive my neighbors their lusty peonies, the mint teeming across the grass, but not the libertine daffodils which gape erogeously. I too have depths for plumbing. If I remember Jay's thumb parting my lips, I'll send him flirty texts, for it's the pleasure he took in me that I miss, the relish of his discovering. All across the city, people are tripping from Ubers to embraces to bars, and I am spitting this into the wind, misting officially off the lake. The shoreline erodes at a measurable pace, and a group of bridesmaids struggles across the beach toward the season's first wedding. I'll be honest, I haven't even tried to parse meaning from their graceless stumbling over the sand, the murmur of their gowns frenzied on the breeze. This next poem is the last one that I will read from the book that's coming, and then I'll dive into some newer stuff. This one is called Nocturne in My Favorite Coat. Meanwhile, the moon's bone white and waxing crescent, my God, it's winking, isn't it? I do that too on less moderate nights than this, and when my legs are bare against the encroaching dimmet. I'm just cleaned up for work in the meantime. You laugh, but you know I mean it. I laugh because I'm hardly joking. In all my daydreams, I am that lawless and gaudy, arriving everywhere, feeling armed and rich, winking too, just like the moon. I phase and full and winking and thumbnail naturally and so modern. When I put my legs up and dissociate, there's nothing like it. The moon wishes. I put on lipstick when I want to smoke a cigarette, wink if I want to, really living. When the bills come due, I'll get ornery and radical. It's not enough that I log on every day and consume. It's embarrassing how much I like buying things, but who doesn't want? It's midnight and I need more cigarettes, so I wear my long coat to the bodega. It's my favorite. I flirt with the guy behind the counter who's too underpaid to notice. He hasn't got time for my nonsense. I get it. On the street, no one but the moon can tell I'm just going home to smoke and put my legs up. At least I hope I look mysterious, walking so fast and with such purpose, my coat billowing. So these poems that I'm about to read for you, it's actually kind of one long poem that is divided into much smaller sections that are I don't usually say too much about my poems, but I've not read these for, like, no one has seen these except for me, which is very not how I work and very strange and exciting. And because I think that they're so different from what I just read for you, they do bear a little bit of context. So I'll just say that I'm sort of treating this kind of as like an ars poetica in a way. It's also kind of a retelling or a non-literal memoir of a relationship, but it's also just kind of like very concerned and obsessed and invested in film and popular culture, especially popular culture from the early aughts and sort of celebrity tabloid culture from that period, which many of you probably were just being born. So it's also, I think, just really interested in like metaphor and simile and things like that. So we'll see how it goes. I really have been having a blast working on these and very excited to read them for the first time. So hopefully they come across. We'll see. The poem altogether is called What Slaughter in the Garden of Beauty, which is taken from a Rimbaud poem. This is not all of them, and they are not necessarily in a sequential order, so don't be confused when I say the numbers. Or do be confused and just enjoy yourself. 7. I like overdrawing my bank account and buying something frivolous. You must try it, darling, it's divine. It's better than talking to each other about our sweaters or our summer plans, like students learning a foreign language. 15. Oh, my radio is bleak this evening. Turn it up, won't you, ducky? I like to feel the treble in my alloy fillings. Please, let's not waste any more time on the potatoes. 46. You absolute maniac. Oh, how I love you in your aviators, your bandana and true religions, grinning like the backup dancer who married the pop star. 60. You want me when I'm behaving myself like a well-trained pet or a loyal housewife when the postmans do. Oh, honey, when you whisper next to my ear like that, I feel like it's 1995 and Fantasy by Mariah Carey just came on the radio. I'm a little like clean rap, aren't I? I'm stuck all over you and you see right through me. 70. Is it that I'm too audacious, darling, like a baby vampire fanging his first neck? I can't ever quite determine how you feel about me, and you love that. I confess, I love it too, baby. You're so enigmatic, like conceptual art or an alien language. 61, now I'll be repulsive but subtle, like a tongue piercing or a caterpillar with fur. Then we'll see if you're still smiling, you dummy, like a scorned ex-wife at her ex-husband's funeral. Why can't you just adore me, sweetheart, like how you adore the socks? 31, I like it when we're making love and you keep your socks on. It's aspirational and dire, like when your boyfriend is the serial murderer. 19, don't expect me to be clever like a lawyer or cunning like a detective. I just want your sympathy like a troubled young starlet. 32, let's go looking for the paparazzi, darling. Then we'll be insouciant, like driving very fast and crashing your Mercedes. 23, you like me to be pleasing like a movie starring Julia Roberts, but you don't know how it feels when the entire town blames you for the bird attacks. 21, take it easy, handsome. You should know by now that I tend to confuse friction for meaning, yet sometimes the inevitable can be thrilling, like flames licking along a gas trail toward a pile of explosives. 12, I like it in a movie when someone switches bodies with someone else, but you're a little like grasping an ice cube. 55, pour us another, darling, and tell me again how you got those scars. Please, we don't have to go into the bank with our pistols aimed and the getaway car waiting outside. Instead, can't we be like kissing at night in a phone booth? I'll wear my leather beret and my Timbs by Manolo Blahnik. 63, I like a clarifying shampoo once or twice a month and peach juice running down my arm to my elbow in summer. It's heaven, darling, and I'm just like a little cherub, aren't I? Here I am, a tumble with the sheet music. Here's my plump pink bottom, my swinish rolls of flesh, all nubbly and pinchable. Swaddle me, daddy, you've got to make me feel perfect like a baby thinks it is. 27, must you be so captivating, darling, like a grisly murder in a small town? I love you like I'm walking backward into a room full of my enemies, each one with a knife. 40, you like to wager your hat as a delicacy when you're making some minuscule point, but you've never been dying of consumption and promised to a duke you don't love. 41, I like it when I feel angry and indelicate, like crushing the champagne flute in my hand. I'm carking, baby, but you're naughty like philosophy or mathematics. Honey, you're making this so hard, like learning to tie your shoes. 30, standing there in your velour tracksuit, darling, you do look quite pensive and bombed. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be intractable like the sunset or an heiress in a peasant skirt posing with the poor. 57, I like to break down sobbing against the door and then, in the very next scene, sample the finest fabrics in Marseille and gorge myself on sweets. Yes, my pet, that's right. Real diamonds for the dog's collar and champagne spilled on playing cards and feathers for my poof and pastel-colored birds, live ones. Darling, it's what I like. 47, sweetheart, you're doing it again. Is it not enough that I love you like this, with my heart playing the right hand of Lisette Concerto and my fin splitting into a shiny pair of legs? Hurry, babe, I'm holding the door for you. It's raining and there's nuggets of hail the size of gophers. 53, you don't have to be so rigid and unyielding like the law or a jar of pickles. You're just like it's 1998 and I'm in love with Devon Sawa. Tell me if I'm losing you now, baby, like the original cut of Cooper's A Star is Born. 58, I'm painting on my cat eyes now and teasing out my hair. I've got the blues again, baby, I'm just like Yves Klein. You love me and you love Call of Duty. 39, that's enough now, baby cakes. Tell me when I'll have earned you like a failing grade or a bad reputation. Honey, you know I can't help myself. I love you, I love you, I love you like I'm applauding a posthumous Oscar. 49, turn it off now, Buttercup, that song's so happy it's making me depressed. Do you ever get this empty, darling, like a VHS sleeve missing its tape? Oh, I'm neurotic like a lion, but you're incorrigible like Kurt Von Trapp. 34, what I like most about you is your demeanor. Well, it's a little brackish, I should say, but not without its darlingnesses. Kid, you're exactly like tearing your shirt in distress and bellowing your fiance's name. 50, I don't know why I'm like this, honey. Here I go again, morose in the garden, a weep behind the topiary tyrannosaur. 44, do you like it, lover boy? I'm at my desk again. Here's my stack of useless papers, my stupid pens and things. I'm afraid I've mislaid the pages that further explicate the garden. I don't know what to tell you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chad. That was amazing. Picturing like a tornado going through the maze that it's constructing as it's going along. Yeah, it was great to hear this. So much energy. Our next reader is Laura Solomon, who is the author of 3 books of poetry, including The Hermit and Blue and Red Things from Ugly Duckling Press, and Bivouac from Slope Editions. She's worked as an editor, teacher, and translator, and currently serves with her partner Jenny Gropp as an executive director of the nonprofit Literary Arts Center Woodland Pattern in Milwaukee, which is an incredible institution and sort of vital center of the arts community in Milwaukee. And I know I and lots of other poets are so grateful for Laura and Jenny really keeping it alive and going through the pandemic and just made me such an amazing place. It's a really generous work that's being done there. And you should all check it out. There's amazing things happening in person and online at Brooklyn Pattern. She's also teaching creative writing at Carthage this spring. We're very lucky to have both Chad and Laura. And about Laura's poetry, first I wanted to mention a thing I mentioned earlier to Laura and Chad, and which I want to credit Joelle, our camera person, with describing the sensation of being at the top of a water slide, and sort of where you're going around and around and around and around, and then suddenly you reach the center and you go down through this thing and out the other side, and that was something of the experience of reading, in this case a chapbook of Laura's. And then I also am remembering vividly a reading that Laura gave in Madison, Wisconsin. I've seen her read a couple times, and the reading in Madison was the sort of the experience like that being described, but at the same time as if I don't know how to, I'm not Chad, I can't complete this metaphor that I'm trying to make, but somehow like a moment of intense pleasure and intense difficult emotion being combined, I think is what I'm trying to describe, has been my experience of Laura's work, and I'm really looking forward to hear it. Thank you for being here. Welcome, Laura Solomon.
That's great. And I could have just continued listening to Chad. I would have been happy. It's weird because I'm always now listening to other people read because of the work that I do. That I don't read as frequently. I used to read a lot, but it's strange to be in this position when I'm like going to readings probably once a week, if not more frequently. So I don't know. Let's see. I gotta see if I can still do it. I don't know. So I'm going to read some older stuff first, and then I found some fairly recent stuff that I had forgotten about that I'm going to read, and I'm also going to read some basically notes that I have been keeping that have not turned into, I don't know if they've turned into anything yet. So this is from Blue and Red Things. This came out like in 2006, so this is way back. Speak to me again of dormant things on the unseen train between your sun and mine. As the real one between us lays a track of rays, speak to me again. I look at you, and through you I see you, which is only a gesture. Yet who among us can see the sun by any means other than its own light? This poem is called My Mother's Irises Are Blooming, and I think I actually wrote this kind of right, I wrote it right after the invasion of Iraq. My mother's irises are blooming. A gull pets the air with its wings. How many quarters did it take to build the United States of America? The people share a single eyeball. They pass it back and forth between them like a sun. They look out their windows and wonder what death is. A white van screeches by. Somewhere clouds are hailing hearses down, but not here. Here someone is counting the clinks a water pipe makes. People love other people and do not know how to behave. This morning I gave a man a quarter. I could have given him $1, but didn't. The dog opened its mouth like a black flower. Every day it must be taken for a walk. The children must be taken to school in car seats. People have children or don't. A poet is not a terrorist on account of his poems, having been translated, having appeared in Arabic newspapers. He will ride the ferry alone. People will build temples out of the thin air they dream they breathe. If the sun wakes them, they will be angry. It is early and understandable, dark, and the cock has yet to crow. People grow long white hairs on their ears and eat refined sugar, Lovely green lawns, lovely rows of houses with people asleep inside them. The king has made plentiful, the day has bestowed, riches commensurate with sorrow. Every week I listen to NPR on the way down here. It's not a good idea always, but it's a habit. Okay, so this is from another book. This came out, I want to do something different with this. Is that, can you hear me?
You need to go way, like down and away from you, yeah.
Yeah, it's too like, okay. So this is from my most recent book, which now is pretty old. It came out in 2011, called The Hermit. This poem's called Places. What can you see? A lung-shaped tree and the nest is made of words. Who are these people? The same people? Why have they come here? To speak to one another? Is it so difficult for one person to speak to another? We are always getting back from places whose names we cannot pronounce. Will the names be pronounced here? We cannot pronounce them. How then is this a solution? Dancing is a cure to self-consciousness. So we will dance? We will get broken into like houses. Is this acceptable? My desert weeps for your ocean. Is this acceptable? Nothing that is vast will ever enter you without cursing you. Tell me of your dream. I will tell you of a fire that burns without smoke. This is the thread by which to reach me should anything go wrong. You said, and it did. For some time the power lines were down, and I was glad you had thought of the thread. Fishing line, to be more precise. I knew I would find you if only I abided by every assertion. Whithersoever, and even if, several caves were in store. But what with the downpour, I entered the first as if it were a raincoat. Later the forest with the same good faith. Finally, upon a clearing I came, and as if I had tied a flashlight to my finger, a little halo flew up the hill. What I saw there at the top was inverted and as if held still by a hand that was almost mine. Okay, so this poem is called Tutti fanno la cacca perché io no. That's Italian for everybody poops, but why not me? Or like literally makes shit, fanno la cacca. Okay, so tutti fanno la cacca perché io no. Tutti frutti, tutti frutti, tutti frutti. Watch me now, watch me now. Non lo so. Latido, non lo so. Latido, non lo so, non lo so. I don't know, I don't know. I don't know, so I know. Non lo so. So I know I don't know. Lo so. I know, I know. I'm repeating myself. I'm repeating myself. So I lived in France for a while, and then I lived in Italy for a while. So there's some stuff about that here. This next poem is called The Autobiography of Alice B. Notley, not Toklas. And Alice Notley is a poet who I love, and she lives in Paris. And when I was still a young thing at 30, I guess it wasn't 30, I was 28, 29, something like that. Anyway, I met her, and she was like, it was this amazing thing that I got to meet her, and she kissed me on both cheeks as I descended into the metro. So she's like part of my memories of that time. And Alice B. Toklas was Gertrude Stein's wife. So this is the autobiography of Alice B. Notley. If you want to become a genius, first you must be born. Then you must sojourn in Paris. Perhaps that sounds easy, and you are thinking that you too might become a genius, but that's just sound. The truth is, many papers must be filled out. All geniuses have a gift for paperwork. This is well documented. The paperwork, completed by the genius in a neat hand, arrives gracefully upon the grumpy desk of the right official people. These official people are then free to reject your papers, but do not, because you use the word arrive. If you are a genius, your papers will not be lost or thrown away, but will continue to circulate indefinitely as they should. Neat handwriting is highly prized in France. In France, school children with bad handwriting are consistently failed because their minds are clearly disorganized. You should make handwriting a daily practice. Then you should go directly to the Louvre. Fortunately, the Louvre is located conveniently close to the Préfecture de Police. To become a genius, you must go to the Louvre once a month and visit the same rooms. You are free to choose which rooms, but these rooms should include several from the Italian Renaissance. French is a nice language to speak when you're not learning Italian. In fact, many Italian geniuses speak it at parties in Paris. To become a genius in Paris, you must attend many parties at which no fewer than 4 languages are spoken. When asked, d'où venez-vous? You must not admit to being American, even if this is true. Otherwise, you could be placed as a curiosity item in the Louvre. When leaving the Louvre, party, or metro, make certain no creepy men follow you. Creepy men are not geniuses, despite creepy men are not geniuses, despite appearances and a long and sad history of genius. If on the metro a creepy man sits too close to you, do not be afraid. Simply say, "Est-ce qu'on peut avoir un peu de place?" and look offended. Everyone in France watches football, and so should you. When France plays, do not say, "Allez les bleus." That's going too far. It's true you may need some money to become a genius. It's true that if you're not wealthy, then you will have to work, won't you? Perhaps you can develop a thrifty lifestyle. Baguettes cost €1 each. If you make 740 euros a month, that's 740 baguettes. Do not be afraid to take hundreds of pictures of La Tour Eiffel. All geniuses understand why every day hundreds of pictures are taken of La Tour Eiffel. La Tour Eiffel resembles both a pretty penis and a fancy lady with 4 legs and frilly underpants. Once I read a book about the gender of genius. It was interesting, but unimportant. All geniuses know the difference between interesting and important, as in, that sentence may not be interesting, but it's important. Or, this poem is not important, but interesting. Or, becoming a genius is neither interesting nor important. You get the idea. Many geniuses, however, do not, or at least not right away, so write until they do. I didn't look at my clock, which was the whole purpose. Bringing this up here. Okay, so this is called Masculine Feminine. And there is a quote from the movie by the same name by Jean-Luc Godard. I realize we can control our ideas, which are nothing, but not our feelings, which are everything. I dreamt of a poem in which I had mastered all my feelings. Love was a perfect violet, an immense meadow of shadow and light. Or else it was a lion, or terrifying stallion. Whatever it was the center of the universe. Only I too was the center, and selfish enough to believe myself to be, the most selfish of all. Who among us has not suffered for want of tenderness? My friend says it is only a ripple, and I have a very, very strong, strong something. My love says I must be both a woman and a man. Long ago I planted him like a seed in my head, now I am visited by fickle breezes. My love says I must be both a man and a woman. I am trying to learn his language. He is a great artist. He needs to be understood without having to understand. He believes love is comprehension, and I believe him. What is wrong with this picture? I am still looking for the violet. I go back to my love and tell him that I am a terrifying stallion, and that I am in love with a lion, and that together we will find the violet. He thinks me jealous and desperate. Immense is the meadow of shadow and light. I tell my friend she is right, that I have a very, very strong, strong something. So I fortunately have some stuff that's kind of new. This one, though, still was not written really recently. It was written before I moved to Milwaukee in Georgia, and I was teaching and working at the Georgia Review on the UGA campus, and there were always leaf blowers, as there always are on campuses. And I had a lot of thoughts about leaf blowers, about leaf blowing as an activity. And so this is called Leaf Blowers Were Here. A fool persists, or dies, or goes for a walk and meets another fool. And like a fool, the first fool tells the other all about it. Do I look like Google? Does my face look like Google? All fall along, the faint scent of fascism. Meanwhile, the headlines bled. Cats express opposition to new litter by pooping outside the box. Methodists on methadone, tears of a clone. You want fries without CV? I once knew a fool who was famous for her anonymity. This poem, so this poem I literally found last night, that I had started right before I moved, and I had totally forgotten about it. And it's almost sestina because it doesn't have an envoy. But once again, I was writing about like gender and genius, and I didn't even realize it. So anyway, I'm going to read this one. It's called Not a Genius. Let me get some water. Not a genius. Bjork is a warm-up for some ice breakage later. Bjork is heat. Bjork is not a genius, writes the editor, his quotation marks, not mine. Bjork, writes Ixta Murray, in a story I asked the editor to publish, but he refuses to publish, his soul full of ice. The editor doesn't need a female perspective and didn't ask for mine, explains the editor to me in actual writing. But Ixta Murray is a genius, I say to the editor, who has no ears. Not for me, not for me, Murray or Bjork. Anyway, nor for the moan of the mother-death self process, to quote Murray. The editor himself so quotable, not a genius, he makes his pen chuckle. The New York Times publishes the very next day, The Peculiar Genius of Bjork, and the link looks like a bucket of ice, for which to anoint the head of the editor, who fancies himself a genius. The editor feigns ignorance when asked for a rebuttal. I have to ask myself, if I told him would he like it, quoting Gertrude Stein? I can already hear his reply, Stein is not a genius. What about Angela Davis then, or Audre Lorde, or Eileen Myles? Would you publish Alice Notley if she wrote a traditional essay about Beyonce? Icy stared. To convince him that Bjork is a genius, I decided to sign the editor up for Bjork Google alerts. Bjork is not a spam. She is the headlamp at the gates of Hades, asking the editor to take a closer look at the ice as quote-unquote hell freezes over. Weeks later, W Magazine publishes Bjork on Bjork. The inimitable Icelandic superstar interviews herself. Genius. Or not a genius. The words ring in my ear. Outrage over this Bjork situation prompts me to buy a web domain, notajenius.com, where I will publish Ixta Murray and other female writers rejected by this editor. At work, nobody even asks me what I'm up to. In my office, I craft a vision statement that quotes the cryogenic editor as antithesis and dream of Iceland. So, that was fun. That was the first time I read that. And actually, everything I'm about to read is basically, I haven't read it. So this poem is called Totality. You feel around in obscurity for a while until a new moon appears. Ah. Later you call it the pussy of the eclipse. Recalling the afternoon we witnessed the darkness emerge to shine through our many enemies, the trees. Cataracts on a moth. Everyone looks, stares, but not the sun, which has been devoured by the moment or made into its monster. A petty villain in a vast universe upon whose earthly ubiquity the shape of each shadow depends. Resemblance requires uninhibited fullness. Now we know. Previously, we had wanted our shadows to mirror us, referring to old sorrows we'd already outgrown. Meanwhile, a batch of new selves were hatching gleefully on the front porch, and a cast of characters appeared before us, strangers we could love or loathe with greater clarity. By the light of your gas, America. This dark development that denotes you will continue without you, and you would be mistaken to think otherwise, that the apartment you rent belongs to you. This is why on weekends we are constructing an earthship in our minds. One by one, our heroes die, friends depart, and the moon, no longer a lie, grows fully full, a lens if you let it be. It is now time to locate your third wolf and return to the forest where your tent awaits your tending. You can still grow your own garlic on shifting soil until, bone dry and bathed in it, you feel feral enough to smuggle your body and that of your lover across a lake of snakes. This evolving glow is why I want to be slightly near you at all times, tonight and on any given evening we share, always lighting a black candle first, because the first time is the first time, and nothing resembles what it will soon become. Okay. This is a weird play poem called, these are the characters, Cloud, House, Worm, and Sun. Cloud. Nefarious winds shove me in all directions. Offended on all fronts, I shall reign. House. I see you're a reigning friend. Cloud. Yes, life has dealt me some deck of cards. House. I myself am plagued with dark corners, not to mention certain holes pertaining to my head. But tell me, who has wronged you and how? Cloud. First my mother died, and then to spite the universe I beat my wife. Now she has left me and I have nothing to live for. House. I see. Your life has lost its foundation. Are you at least content with your occupation? Cloud. No, not even. It's my being a cloud that has led to this disaster. That's why I'm ending it all. House. Where's your wife now? Cloud. How am I supposed to know? She left off with the first breeze that would take her. Screw it all to hell. House. Perhaps she has merely changed appearances. This is known to happen in the heavens. Cloud. Look, a penguin, watch out! House. I hope you know that your current behavior holds consequences for us all. Cloud. What is happening to me? I'm hardly even here. House. Furthermore, a butterfly in China. Cloud. House. Worm. Why do you keep pining after that old bag of bricks? Until this moment, who has offered you shelter? Besides, I feel so good with you. Before you came into my life, I experienced no emotion. Now just look at me. I'm a glistening airport of thoughts and feelings. Cloud. Forgive me. I am scattered. I am not myself. Have I ever been? May the sun come soon with its brawny arms to surround my soul on all sides. May the dowsing rod of dawn draw me up like brand new dew. May I disappear into the heat and be reborn an eternal ice cube. Worm. Get a load of this guy. Sun. I am the sun. I am a neutral conglomerate of nuclear reactions. My disinterest reigns supreme. I do what is done on the part of everything. I do nothing for the benefit of anything. Favoring no particular being, I shed light on the forms. Okay. This is a lot of stuff that I'm going to read. And these are notes, literally. Like, they're not poems yet. I don't know what I'm doing by reading this, except that I feel like it makes sense because everybody in here pretty much is in a creative writing class, so it feels like, meh, I should just do this. So these are things that I've been writing down, but they just don't have a place yet. I'll just pause between them. Bacon, she lied. After a while, she realized she could ask for pie instead of cake. Nothing. Never mind. Move along. No connections here. Are you texting God? How does one run away from the end of the world? Tragedy skips some, but its tornado none. A flock of bird fingers points the way. Gentili signori, benvenuti al ristorante Nodes. I am still having this life. We had to turn on Do Not Disturb on our phones so other phones would leave us alone. More chickens on Earth than all other species of bird combined to feed humans who still go hungry. Within the next 6 months, the built world en masse will surpass that of the natural. Janelle shares the link. Taka wonders, what is best for his trees? Should he split up his seedlings? On the productivity of collars. How rare an occasion that I would want to go into that expansion. Thank you for this lecture on the productivity of collars. Disappointment in the species. Oh human, how could you? You're one beauty. Germaximus Rex. Slide into the weekend with the lesbian preppers to-do list. Order 2 cases of sparkling water in case of nuclear war. Repurpose plastic sour cream containers. Emergency cat dishes for go bag. All too real. Lockdown. I decided to oil up this VCR so we can play the same blank tape over and over again. A year goes by like a slow blinking cat. Cultivate the imagination and all problems cease. Tears of Flame, Auden's poem, Putin's War. Don't let them steal my life when I die. As Russians surround Kyiv, the People's Convoy arrives outside D.C. like a dark comedic subplot. On social media. Here's my nuclear bomb recipe. Want to try it? For Matt Henriksen. Each March, the seedlings grow harder to start. The whole world in the mood for war. What Marina Timkina said. She said this. I was convinced I was safe and not a poet because I had no metaphor. And then one day, bam, a metaphor.